What's up, y'all? Hold on. You holding on? Hold on. All right. What's up? Today is the 1st of October, 2025. My name is Evan Strong, the founder of In The Image Clothing Company. Let's get into this. This video is actually a title that may not make any sense at first, so I'll do it as I do, explain it a little bit. We'll get into the intro, talking about each of the four sides of In The Image Clothing Company. We'll talk about where clothing sits, and then we'll really get into this discussion as to why this is an important thing at all. Why does it actually matter? Because the video is titled The Importance of Quiet Clothing. And yeah, it's important. It actually is. It actually matters. And so a lot of what I'll talk about in here is things like shoelaces, tapping on the tops of our feet, things like the sound that can come from our feet scuffing, but really the problem is our feet scuffing. And so we'll get into things like this, noises in parts of our clothing, things in our pockets, and it's on both ends. The noise itself can be damaging to our bodies, but then not only because of what's coming from the noise, our bodies can be damaged, but motions and movements that our bodies do, or reasons that the body is doing certain things because of the noise, can give us indications on what parts of our bodies aren't working so well. Like if the feet are scuffing, well, the sound of the scuffing of our feet can bring us to what's not being allowed to either dorsiflex or plantar flex evenly, right? The importance of even flexion of the ankle, the importance of even ankle flexion, a video under the main site of In The Image Clothing Company. And then from there, because of the sound we hear of our feet scuffing, we can address what's going on in the body to not allow the feet to work well. Okay, so it's on both ends. What's causing the noise, and then we can find the damage in the body, but then also how noise in the clothing can actually damage the body. We'll get into it on both ends. I just want to explain it like that first before I even get into our intro, because there's a reason for this. There's actually a big reason for quiet clothing. And it does a lot to the body, really, to have noise in our clothing. So I'll talk about at least quite a few things in here of what can come from this and why it's really something to be intentional about. And then from there, anything that I don't mention, we can kind of, infer, if you will, realize like, oh, okay, yeah, I understand now a lot of what he said here, so then transfer it into anything that I didn't say that could be making noise in clothing, right? I want it to be as real as it is. I know it sounds kind of weird, so that's why there's this little bit of a preface before I get into it. Okay, so that's what we do here, though. The main side, one of our fourths of In The Image Clothing Company, we allow the human body to work. We come at it through clothing. The human body is just a mechanical machine placed onto a rock in space. Okay, there's a center line to the human body. There is a neutral to every position of every joint in the body. Our bodies need to reside in their center line and in their neutral positions, like the neutral wrist here, straight out from the pinky finger. When we follow up the forearm, that's the neutral wrist. Then there's motion all outside of that. The body has a center line, as I just said. The sternum, the spine, the trachea, the nose, and our jaw. The jaw naturally stabilizes the whole body, not just the head that's on top of the body, but all the way down to the feet, out to the fingertips. And this all needs to stay centered with Earth's center of gravity, okay? Earth has a center of gravity that it pulls down on everything with, that needs to mesh with our body's actual physical centered line, where the musculature connects, from the outside of the shoulder to the sternum in the front on both sides, from the outside of the shoulder to the spine in the rear on both sides, right? Similar things throughout the whole body. There is a center line. So, clothing, it's placed on us, and we live in a modern man-made world, placed onto God's natural earth. If clothing's imbalanced at all, the body will be as well. Clothing has to stay centered, fit correct, where I'll discuss here in a minute, and be made from 100% natural materials. Otherwise, it can really, really, really alter the body. The body is just natural. We talk about everything we do as a human being, right? Eating, sleeping, standing, walking, breathing, yikes, sitting, hydration, everything though that we do in our lives, because we discuss the anatomy of the human body in depth, and we just allow the body to work. That's our slogan on the main site of In The Image Clothing Company, because you can't do anything else. You can't train a mechanical machine to do something that it won't do. It just only has the motions it has. Everything only has a certain function in the body. So we just need to unrestrict it. Our clothing needs to fit us correct. Otherwise, it's the only thing that's going to alter our bodies to that high of a degree in our life, and it will. So what we do is get out of these chronic patternings and scar tissue. The body gets built up in the right-handed world with these right-handed patternings and things on most always just, yikes, but truly, the right side of the body, right? Clothing patterns, in a sense, are right-handed. Things to be used in the world, with the most of the use being with just one hand, right, are designed for the right hand to be using it, because we're 85% right-handed as far as a population of human beings go on this earth. So we get into these right-handed patternings. We just talk about how to get out of them and how to just, stay centered, right? We have to. Two sides to the body. Musculature only contracts. So things like stretch in clothing, it goes the opposite direction of the only way muscles could ever work. And stretch didn't even exist in clothing just decades back from today's date. A lot of what makes us be able to be in the Image Clothing Company and, be needed is the time period. A lot of these things that we deal with nowadays as human beings didn't exist. Just, even the generation before us. A lot of these things, they're very new. So, there you go. Okay, that's a lot of what we do here. Free modifications in clothing to allow the body to work, but then in the Image Clothing Company clothing, always just being good. That's the only reason we'd have it, right? Do everything clothing, minimal, simplistic, doing the three things for sure, right? Staying centered, fitting correct, allowing the body to work through being 100% natural in all the ways that we can. Okay, so there we go. We have another fourth of us in the Image Clothing Company poodles. We do basically the same thing for human beings, but for dogs. Okay, we specialize in purebred standard poodles. We breed them, registering them properly under the American Kennel Club. We advocate for doing things like this, proper things, right? Being a good owner of dogs and how to. We keep less dogs in shelters and more dogs at homes, right? There's a lot going on, right? Like I said, the time period is a big part of it. These dogs live in this modern man-made world and they're getting damaged and altered, so we let dogs stay natural. The same thing we do for human beings, and that comes through feeding, hydration for dogs, the things placed onto them, collars, leashes, and harnesses, keeping those centered, like our collars, right? Keeping collars centered, a video we have under the main site of In The Image Clothing Company, but we just have to, regardless of if we ever had a video on it or not, right? There's musculature going through the collars of our tops and our neck, same with dogs. And dogs' collars are usually much more imbalanced than human beings, even when ours almost always are, right? So we've got a lot that we talk about. Poodle parade events here in the state of Utah, beautiful mountains. We're based here, the United States of America. This beautiful state has a lot of beautiful nature, okay? Bring your purebred poodles of any size or poodle mixes of any size. We'll do a lot just having fun in nature at poodle parade events. Things for the environment as well, clean the creek specific poodle parade events, picking up trash. I'll give information on letting dogs stay natural, and it'll be kind of just like a family reunion. We'll have a lot of them. It'll be a good time. Come hang out, okay? Check scheduling, InTheImageClothingCompany.com for all the things that we do, all the events we have. But as well as human being clothing, we need good dog products, right? Collars, leashes, harnesses, similar things to not alter the dogs. We have clothing to not alter the body of the human beings, but one thing that we do also under In The Image Clothing Company poodles is show interacting with our dogs. Things like holding leashes and doing it naturally, right? And all the ways that we are with our dogs as owners, letting dogs stay natural, allowing the body to work, it kind of like meshes together because we do things together as an owner and a dog, right? So we talk about a lot of these things under In The Image Clothing Company poodles, and check us out, okay? In The Image Clothing Company music, another one of our fourths. I show the sizing and setup of guitar. That's a lot of what I do there, because we can't alter the neutral wrist or our hands while we do anything in life, but especially playing guitar with all these fine little motor skills that we do with our fingers and our hands. It'll travel through our whole body with potential chronic patterning and pain, and it's not fun. Okay, so I show that on In The Image Clothing Company music. I also make music and place it there. I do a lot of lyricism, right? Metronome Madness is one of the things we do. We've got 28 episodes of Metronome Madness up until the last one we've done. Yeah, I go off the top, meaning freestyle lyricism. A lot of messages in the music that is placed there on the gospel of Jesus Christ. Cool stuff, right? Insightful things, and it's fun. You know, I give a lot of information actually in the ways that I do there around music, in the ways that I do, okay? So check it out. We've got In The Image Clothing Company podcast, another one of our fourths where we have discussions on the gospel of Jesus Christ. We do it as we do, though, when it comes to being In The Image Clothing Company. Blunt, bold, raw, real. We are who we are. I get speaking harsh sometimes. We just talk about life as it is. We're all human beings on the same earth. We have one God, so we discuss him there as he says that he is, although never perfectly, because we're imperfect. One of the things that we discuss there, really. Yeah. Okay, 161 episodes as of the last one we did. Yeah, 161. Yeah? Unless it's 160. I think it's 161. In The Image Clothing Company podcast. All right. Clothing for everybody has to sit in the same location. It doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman, tall or short, skinny or fat, any age or any part of the earth. If you're from any time period to ever be, you're just a human being. And what I mean by that is, yeah, for everyone it's the same. Our pants need to be entirely above our hips, so there's no restriction to the functionality of the hips or the pelvis. That's what's called our natural waist, where we bend side to side at our spine. With our pants there, we need the waistline to be slightly higher in the front than it is in the rear, because that's how we keep our body activated in the musculature, keeping us vertical on Earth's gravity. Okay, travels down to the feet with those gripped arches that oppose the center line, gripping inward, keeping us vertical, supporting the whole body. And it travels actually all the way up to our head and out to our fingers from our waistline of our pants. Okay, any alteration there that's not going to let the body be in its only neutral, working, natural, normal synonyms within the human being position. Okay, neutral, natural, and normal. Those are synonyms within the body's functioning. So, tops that we wear have seams on top of our shoulders, and they need to sit evenly behind the peak of our shoulders, because our shoulders only ever work behind our head. That's just where they connect mechanically, and our shoulders follow shoulder seams. The edges of our tops should be as close as we can get right to the edges of our shoulders. If we can mesh the functionality of the shoulder joint with the collarbone, which is called the clavicle, the scapula, which is the shoulder blade, meeting the humerus, the upper arm bone, right at that joint. If we can mesh that with the top material of our clothing, meeting the sleeve material, as close as we can get right to the functionality of that meshing of two things, the body and the clothing, then our bodies aren't being restricted. Our bodies aren't having to try to work around our oversized tops, and we're, suffering in pain and building up chronic patterning and scar tissue that lasts our whole lives potentially. Okay, two things we have as prerequisites under In The Image Clothing Company to not alter the body. We're just weaving ropes across the top of our feet when we call them shoelaces. There's only one way we can do that that's shaped the way the human foot mechanically works, with all the bones and tendons and ligaments and musculature in there, gripping those arches, keeping a neutral ankle, lower leg, knee, tracking, traveling through the whole body. In The Image Clothing Company's shoelace technique. It's just the only way you can shape a rope across the top of the feet naturally. Okay, then we tie shoes just to keep the shoes on. We have to tie shoes evenly over toward the center line of the body on both feet. I was 24 years old before I started tying my shoes evenly, and well, there's a center line to the body. Okay, so secondly, we remove all tags from clothing. Anywhere a tag is placed in clothing is one of those things I was saying earlier that allows us to be in the Image Clothing Company in modern day to the degree that we are. Tags are new, just decades back from today's date, and they're either causing a physical gap, changing the body's only working position, and or they're just not allowing musculature to activate, then the body's being damaged and it's trying to make up for things that can't work, right? Compensation can't happen in the body because everything has its own individual role to play. It can't make up for something else, or else that thing can't do its role, right? There's a lot going on in the body, even though it is very simple. So there you go. Let's get into this. This video, like I said, is titled "The Importance of Quiet Clothing," and it is. It's very important. Let's start with shoelaces. I'll talk about whatever I talk about in this. I've got, quite a few things I'll say at least. But here's some shoelaces. Okay, you saw them at the beginning if you did. Ideally round. Okay, ideally no give to them. Okay, round shoelaces can just move. Flat shoelaces will just react differently in parts where they're twisted versus parts where they're flat. Again, on top of the feet, there's a lot going on. Often when we think about shoes, we think about what we're stepping on, the sole of the shoe. But every time we lift our foot off the ground, we're lifting our entire shoe by the top of our feet, right? So that in the Image Clothing Company shoelace technique has to be done because we're lifting the shoe off the ground with the top of the feet, not only pressing the shoe down with the bottom of our feet when we walk, okay? There's a lot that goes into shoelacing. We talk about a lot of things required in shoe design to not alter the feet. Check that out where you find in the Image Clothing Company's content. But things like keeping the feet flat on the earth, right? No elevated shoes because that wouldn't naturally be how we would walk. So it changes the whole body to the tip of the head, the tips of the fingers if we lift our heels off the ground, okay? And there's a lot, tongue tabs in shoes being removed so we're not locking the top of the foot in place when it actually has a inward motion when we walk, right? Gripping inward off the outside of those toes. Good nails on the fingers and the toes, fully supporting them to the tips. Cut relatively flat so the fingers don't roll around, the toes don't roll around, and we can have a nice neutral position, okay? There you go, okay? Yeah, important stuff, right? The importance of, that's why I title these videos like this. I love that. Eternal truths, seriously. So within shoelaces though, these aren't the ideal. These are flat and yeah, right, it'll just be different, as I was saying, if it rolls and where it does. And then flat too, it just reacts differently. It kind of gets stuck in place. Can't just accommodate by rolling around. But the thing about the noise that's coming from shoelacing that's actually damaging to the body, and we might not think about this, but I'll talk about it, is these little things on the end we call aglets, okay? They're beneficial in a lot of ways. They, this little plastic looking piece on the end, sometimes it's metal, sometimes it's anything else that they make it out of. Check that out, okay? But what it does is hold the material together so it doesn't fray. But when we're standing, probably wouldn't happen so much. But walking, any motion we do in our life, we talk about running and how it's damaging to the body just for the sake of running, right? Check that out. I know that's a bold claim, but it is the truth. There's so much impact that happens through running. It's not necessary, and we discuss why people do it in modern day. Again, another one of those things that didn't happen before like the 1970s. We have an In the Image Clothing Company podcast episode titled Running, and I went into a discussion on it pretty thoroughly. But I also made a video titled a 5K with the founder of In the Image Clothing Company, and I ran 5 miles filming myself do it in my hand. Right. I'm saying those things right now so I don't have some claim when I say running is damaging to the body. We just got to see what's going on. But when you're walking, moving around, listen to this. You can hear someone coming down the hallway by no other means by just their shoe aglets hitting the tops of their feet. You know someone's coming, right? Every step they take, you hear that little clicky sound of the aglets on the shoes. Well, I made a video just a few days ago under the main site of In the Image Clothing Company titled "The Height of a Gripped Arch." And our feet, they grip arches and they actually elevate. I talk about within a right-handed patterning, the right-handed world, a video under the main site of In the Image Clothing Company, but also just the case of us in life. Even if you are left-handed, you're still dealing with a right-handed world. Gets us into this patterning. a lot of times the right side of the body is a gripped arch's distance lower, okay, than the left side. From tying shoes unevenly toward the right, drawstrings tied toward the right, twisting the whole pelvis, right? How drawstrings affect body mechanics. Under the main side of In the Image Clothing Company, we show how to not let drawstrings affect body mechanics, okay? The slipped lap knot, LAPP, tie the tail end over toward the center line, right? Horizontal waist, because your hips have to be even. That's where things like the importance of even ankle flexion come from, is our hips down or our shoulders down, but yeah, drawstrings, right? So, same thing goes for drawstrings with this little noise we hear. But wherever these things are placed, just noisy things on the end of a rope on the body, and ropes can damage the body so greatly, right? Just because you're taking one side and putting it over the other side, if you are, right? It's just rotating the whole body where the ropes are placed. But we need our gripped arches to be able to come up. That's what I mean by the height of a gripped arch, is they actually elevate. It's like the hands. I showed a little bit in the intro of this, right? The rounding to the open palm of our hands. We need that natural arch. The hands correlate with the feet. They're just about the exact same thing, the hands and the feet. And the feet need to be unaltered, and those arches need to be able to come up. So when we have something on top of our feet that are trying to grip an arch and elevate, right? Come up. And this is going on top of the feet, right? Gripping an arch, then you've got every step, the shoelace aglets hitting the top of the feet. It can collapse your feet arches. And not just can, it does. It really does. I used to talk about a lot under the main side of In the Image Clothing Company. And at that time, that's the only side that we had, right? At the very founding. Sensory activation. And I talk about how old school bodybuilders, and maybe people still do it nowadays, but I know it did happen in the past quite a bit, would have their trainers tap their musculature with their finger like this. If they had a weight in their hand and they were doing curls for their biceps, which is this muscle here on the arm, their trainer would tap their arm as the bodybuilder was curling the weight, because we have this mind-muscle connection, and it's called sensory activation. That's how I would word it so often in some of those earlier videos, like in the fall of 2024. Our bodies will react to things when our sense of touch, which is all over our whole skin of our bodies, feels something going on. A lot of times that will activate our musculature. And so having things like the aglets of our shoelaces tapping on the top of our feet arches, well, our feet arches actually activate from underneath, and they grip, right? The musculature comes down from the calf through the Achilles tendon and connects to the heel of the foot. The importance of even Achilles tendon insertions, okay? A video we have under the main side of In the Image Clothing Company. There's a video titled A Discussion on the Right Achilles Tendon, because of the patterning we get into in the right-handed world. That right Achilles tendon can really get altered on the right heel of our right foot. Well, there's only one heel to our right foot, but it will go off to the right side. The insertion will, if our foot's pulled off to the outside, externally rotated, okay? But yeah, that's a big thing. Tapping these aglets on top of our feet every step we take, and just, excess length in shoelaces even, it's like flying, like wings. Kind of when you walk, the shoelaces like flap like this, and they hit the feet. Your feet need to grip from underneath. And having all this sensory activation happening on top of the feet, it's collapsing the arch in the foot, okay? And it needs to grip from underneath. And then we've got those pinky toes straight out from that neutral ankle pointing forward, just like the pinky finger, straight out from the forearm pointing forward, right? And there we go, okay? If they're unaltered, we've got healthy gripped arches and we can walk normal. But those aglets really will cause you to have problems with your feet arches, actually, big time. But also, not only that, like I was saying in the beginning, how I'll hit this from kind of two different sides, because there's different things happening here with noise and clothing. When you think about just having a clear mind, right, just being clear-headed and not being distracted by things, we'll get into this a little bit here, discussing it, because we talk about it on In the Image Clothing Company poodles with noise on dog collars, right? And they're not going to be able to listen to your commands very clearly if they're being distracted by just noise jingling around their neck. That's how our shoelaces are as well. If you're walking around and everywhere you go, you're just trying to maybe not really think about all that much, or think deeply and clearly about something. You're going on a walk to actually, really think through something, maybe. And the point is, regardless, just we need to have a clear mind and not have unnecessary things distracting us. And when you're walking, you hear this always. You hear that? That tippy tappy, clicky clacky, if you will, the sound from our aglets hitting the tops of our feet. We're feeling it. It's potentially collapsing our arches, and really it is to a degree, definitely. Potentially like fully collapsing the arches is what I mean, seriously, no joke. But then also it's distracting us in our mind. We're hearing this noise everywhere we walk, and we can't just think clearly. It's like there's just distraction going on. And these are things we notice even if we don't notice them consciously, right? The body notices so much without us consciously knowing it or noticing it, right? We breathe and we don't think about it. Our heart pumps blood through the whole body and we don't think about it. We blink and we don't think about it. The body does so much without us consciously doing it. And really, God's just orchestrating everything for us. And so our bodies really notice little things like this, even if we think that maybe they're too small to put importance on. No, the importance of quiet clothing. That's why the video is titled so specifically. It's important. It is. It's very important to be intentional to have your clothing as quiet as you can. So yeah, we'll just be not able to be as clear-minded as we could if there's just noise all the time, correlating with what we do too. That's the thing. Every step you take, noise happens. You're like, what the, yeah, even if it's subconscious, it's actually really affecting your body. So I'm gonna pick these up again. A big thing that I do is tie the ends of my aglets. So if this is like my right foot or left foot, doesn't matter actually for showing this which side it would be, I tie the shoe laces like this. I put a little knot right before the aglet, tie them over toward the inside, on both sides, so that it's even, right? Just how we tie our shoes, over toward the center line on both sides, just so they'll sit evenly. But then they won't make as much noise because they'll be hitting this like cushion, if you will, of the lace, rather than just like smacking the tip of the aglet on the top of your upper of your shoe, or the side of the upper of your shoe, So there you go. I mean, I do that. A big reason I do that as well, though, is so that you can just pull your laces loose when you take your shoes off, and you don't pull your shoelaces through the eyelets of your shoe upper. Then you can keep your shoelaces off the ground. If you have wet shoes or boots and you take them off, but then your laces are sitting on the ground and the water's on the ground and your shoelaces get wet, right? Those little knots are actually very helpful. I do that in the boots I'm wearing right now. That's how they are. Every pair of shoes, actually, as far as I know, that I have right now, I do that with. It's a great thing to do. Just that little knot on the end of the aglets. Yeah, right near them. Yeah, so, I just got humbled by it. Yeah, it's a big video. That's what I mean. This is really important stuff. Just for your livelihood, right? That's what we do under In the Image Clothing Company. We just kind of show people how to have a mechanically able to work life, right? Through all the things that we do, at least for the anatomy of the human body, that's what we do. So it comes down to things like this: shoelaces and these tiny little things on the ends of them, the aglets. They're good, but if they're making noise, that's doing a lot to the body, okay? And our psyche, like I'm saying, our mind. Yeah. And so this happens actually in ways, though, where if we've got drawstrings around our waist, and they're just kind of long, right? And they're hanging down on our quadriceps, these muscles on the front of our legs. People call them thighs, but there's actually 4 muscles quad, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, going from the hip to the knee on the front of the leg. That's allowing them to work in conjunction with the hip flexors to flex the hip, but also extend the knee. If we've got drawstrings hanging down from our waist and they're tapping on our quadricep muscles, on our thighs, if you will, the top of our leg here in the front, then same thing as that sensory activation I was talking about. It's happening on the top of the feet from the aglets of the shoes. It's happening if the trainer of a bodybuilder is tapping their bicep while they're doing a curl with their arm, holding weight. That's happening on your quadricep muscles. And really, when we're doing things like walking, we need the posterior chain of the body, meaning the rear of the body, to be doing the majority of the work. Just if it was never restricted, the human body, that's how it's designed to work. The activation's in the rear of the body. The glutes, the hamstrings, right? The shoulders sit behind the head, and then our core can stay activated because just the switch of activation that goes up the body. I've discussed that in many places under the main side of In The Image Clothing Company. It's just not needed to be discussed in depth in this. Other than our quadricep muscles shouldn't be excessively active. They shouldn't be doing more work than they just naturally would. And in standing and walking, they just do the amount of work that they do. And it's not like the focus. The focus really would be more on the posterior chain of the body, just the way the body works, neutral, okay? So the big thing is anything in pockets will do the same thing, but having those little strings from a drawstring, or just one maybe, hitting on the front of our legs, on our quadricep muscles, it's activating those muscles more than they would just naturally work. Because every step we take, just like the aglets of our shoelaces hitting the top of our feet, collapsing our arches, the arches grip underneath, the aglets would hit the top, which is the opposite side, while the body really works from the rear, these big hamstring muscles in the back, and that's where it needs to be able to activate well. And if the drawstring's hitting the other side, the quadriceps, then it'll deactivate the hamstrings, change the position of the pelvis more forward and anterior, because those hamstrings really contract to pull our pelvis neutral. This is what I mean by the snaking of the activation. The hamstrings work with the core, because the core contracts, it snakes from the front of the body's activation, and then once you get to the pelvis, it kind of switches to the rear, and the hamstrings contract, because both of them will work together to get the pelvis neutral, okay? So we don't want things tapping the front of our legs, is the point. And that's what'll be happening if your drawstrings are hanging down, tap, 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 tapping on the front of your legs as you walk. And then also just noise that could come from that as well, just distracting you from your ears. Noise that could come from Mr. Heavy Machinery Man, right? Blunt, bold, raw, real in The Image Clothing Company. We are who we are. But this is the big thing. We should limit that as much as we can, right? Just no excess. That's the thing about minimalism, if you will, right? An episode of In The Image Clothing Company podcast, that's one of our titles. Minimalism. And we don't need to label something as that, but just meaning we don't need more than we need in life, and having our drawstrings just be hanging down farther and longer than we need, well, it's going to actually be doing damage to the body. It's going to change the activation of musculature in the body and the position of joints to ways that it just wouldn't naturally be, because that can collapse your feet arches. If your quadriceps get overly activated and your hamstrings kind of turn off a little bit, your feet arches will collapse, because the arches grip by having the rear of the body contract, because that's where the musculature comes down underneath the feet and grip the arch. You know, the body really pulls, you know, toward its center line where the musculature connects. and there's just a neutral to everything, okay? So having overactive quadricep muscles will not allow the body to be in its neutral position, is the point. And the quadricep muscles will be able to become overactive by drawstrings tapping on them, okay? Just hanging down, hitting your legs as you walk in the front, okay? So there you go. Drawstrings and shoelaces, some of the biggest things we talk about. A mixtape that I made on the guitar. I did a little fingerstyle mixtape, just freestyled it. It's like 12 songs long, I'm pretty sure. One night, shoelaces and drawstrings, the mixtape by Evan Strong, right? Two big things in the body, meaning placed onto it, that are man-made, that are very much altering our bodies if we're not as intentional as we know how to be. Right? You don't know what you don't know. You can't be held accountable for what you don't know. But we talk about things like this under In the Image Clothing Company, and we also kind of mock workouts. I don't want to be mean, but yeah, we mock workouts. You don't need to train the body. Designed to work. An episode of In the Image Clothing Company podcast. God designed the body to just take us across the earth and do its thing. If we just don't restrict it, it'll just do its thing. Anything can happen. Everyone's got their own situation, deformity, amputation, birth defect, who knows? But all these chronic problems, they're coming from, in a lot of cases, things that are this small and simple. Seriously, the importance of quiet clothing. Like, what? Something we probably wouldn't ever think about otherwise, right? But that's why we're here in the Image Clothing Company, allowing the body to work. So, like I was saying at the beginning, a lot of this can come from anything in clothing that's making noise. What I'm saying though is, what can happen is things that are making noise can lead us to understanding problems or incorrect patternings in the body. When we talk about dorsiflexion and plantar flexion of our ankles, dorsiflexion is lifting the toes up, plantar flexion is pointing the toes down. It needs to be even, and we need to walk without ever scuffing our feet, right? I made a video under the main side of In the Image Clothing Company titled, I don't know if it's exactly worded like this, but the feet should never scuff. If our feet scuff, well, imagine not having shoes on and walking out anywhere on the dirt and your feet scuffing. You just wear down the bottom of your feet. You'd wear the skin off down to your bone eventually. We can never scuff our feet without damaging our bodies. It also changes just the workings of the whole body to the tip of the head and the tips of the fingers, because those feet should just very nicely grip and arch, lightly walk on the earth, and just imagine walking with no shoes, right? Shoes are a man-made thing. The feet are designed to just work. Think about animals. They don't wear shoes. If they scuffed their feet all over the place, they'd have bloody feet, okay? The feet should never scuff, but in modern day, because of the patternings we get into, the stuff we talk about under In the Image Clothing Company on how to get out of these chronic patternings and scar tissue that we get into as human beings so commonly, because everybody's within just about the exact same patterning across the earth because of the modern world we live in and the things placed onto us that are all so very similar, shipped across the whole earth, almost the exact same wherever you go. Our feet, as a society, right, often scuff. You'll hear people walking, like I'm saying, you can hear people coming just by the little clicking sound of their aglets hitting the top of their feet. You'll be able to hear people coming a lot of the time by their feet just scuffing on the ground. And that's very damaging. Not only what it's doing to the actual bottom of your feet, but yeah, the whole body is then altered. Yeah, the feet are supporting our whole body. If they're working in a position that's not normal for them, everything else that they're supporting, being the whole body, is also going to be in a position that it wouldn't normally work in. And the body can only work neutral, natural, normal, right? There's only one position for everything in the body to reside in neutrally. And then we have motion outside of that neutral, okay? And all the rotations and all the positions, like the wrist or like the ankles, like the pelvis, like the shoulders, like the jaw, stabilizing the whole body, okay, just has a neutral that it resides in. So this is the big point about scuffing the feet and hearing it, is what that can do is lead us to understanding, okay, if I'm walking and I have a hard time at times, let's say hypothetically somebody's saying this, not being able to just walk without scuffing one of my feet. Okay, where's that coming from? And then, well, that's what we show under in the Image Clothing Company's main side. Then you can travel through the body, right? Checking the shoelacing, checking the drawstrings or anything around the waist, traveling up, checking the shoulders, because that could cause the feet to scuff, right? So noise in the body can lead us to kind of solving the problem, if you will, of where the imbalances are in the body. And we show it here under in the Image Clothing Company. But yeah, it can also just kind of like prove what's going on. If you're scuffing your feet, yeah, that's noise that's coming from just an incorrect mechanic workings in the body. Okay. Yeah, I mean, this is big. We just don't want to be listening to our bodies, if that makes sense. If we never wore clothing and you're just walking out there, like here on this nice grass, or even just in nature in some field that was just like naturally there, right? You would just be walking through it quietly. There wouldn't be things tapping on your body like these aglets, like things maybe in your pockets, like things maybe hooked around your waist on a belt loop or something, like things hanging down from your collar area, you know, hoodies we wear, and sometimes they have a drawstring in the hoodie so that we can cinch that tight around our head to keep us warmer and not have air be coming in. Well, if those strings are hanging down on our chest, like I was saying at the beginning, like we talk about often when we just discussed the only way the human body could ever work, God's design here in the image of Jesus Christ, the shoulders only ever work behind the head. And so with our shoulders only ever working behind our head, if we've got drawstrings, right, just ropes hanging down from our hoodies, tapping on the front of our bodies here, on our pectoral muscles, then we will have overactivation happening on the pectorals. Like we were talking about with the quadriceps, from a drawstring hanging on them, tapping, they can become overactive, and the activation changes from where it would naturally be in the rear of the body to the front of the body. Well, same thing happens on the pectorals. Tap, 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 tap. You're activating the musculature that pulls your shoulders forward, these pectoral muscles, when the shoulders only ever work behind the head, just where gravity would hang your arms down neutrally, when the rest of your body is just working in alignment on Earth's gravity. Okay? Activated as a whole. The only way the body can work, because everything's there. You can't just drag around dead weight. Everything has a role to play. It has to be allowed to. Okay? So yeah, things like that, you know, tapping on the chest with those strings coming down from your hoodie collar area, okay? Damaging to the body, also distracting. Like we were saying with the shoelace aglets or the drawstrings hanging on the front of the legs, audibly, you're hearing it. It's annoying. Even if you're not conscious of it, it's taking some of your attention. It's taking some of your mind, some of your focus, some of your calmness. I mean, it can make you actually agitated, and you can be worked up throughout the day and not know why, and it's just because you don't have a break from noise when you're walking around with things like this tapping on your body coming from your clothing. Okay, so this is really a lot of the things in clothing on why we have this video under the main side of In The Image Clothing Company. The importance of no, that's not what this is titled. We have a lot of videos titled that, though, because there are two sides of the body. But the importance of quiet clothing, okay? So, yeah, things like keys jingling, right? If we have multiple keys on a little ring, if they're in the pockets, well, you're damaging your legs. If you damage your legs, you damage your body from, you know, all the way throughout it, to the tip of the head, tips of the fingers, tips of the toes, because you'll change your pelvis's position. You'll change your legs' natural activation percentage from front to back, right? Abduction versus adduction on both sides, and rotations, internal versus external. The whole body, through all of it, will be damaged if there's things in your pockets ever, regardless of if they're quiet or not, or very thin or slim or light. Anything in your pockets at all will damage your whole entire body. But that's kind of what I was saying about noise can lead us to fixing the problems. Jingling keys around, you know, the hip area on a belt loop. Let's say you've got keys clipped onto the belt loop with a carabiner type of thing, right? Sometimes people do that. Wherever that is, if it's right on the side, it's tapping on your little glute medius muscle here, changing the activation of your body, right? And that's not good. If it's right on the front here, on one of these front belt loops, it's tapping on your hip flexor and where your quadricep muscles come up and insert to the pelvis, and that's damaging your body. If you put it on the rear, it's tapping on your glute max back there, and that's damaging your body, and also changing the position of your waistline of your pants just because of the weight of the key ring, carabiner thing hanging on your hips. And then that being on the right side will still change the other side of the body because it's on the waistband of the pants that goes all the way around your waist that needs to stay horizontal, because that's just how the body has to be on Earth's gravity, with two sides to it and a center line, right? Gravity's center line as well. And so this is the big thing, is noise in clothing, the importance of poodles. Yikes, they're walking this way. I'll get a better look, but it's some type of poodle or poodle mix over there, apricot color. As far as I can tell, it gets closer and maybe it's a different dog than that. It looks like it from here. Yeah, so, you know, the importance of quiet clothing. This is what I mean. Anywhere that there's noise happening on the body, well, it's because something's moving, you know, in the cases of this. And that means, yeah, there's different activation going on because things are being tapped on and you're noticing it, right? But also the sound just is not ideal for the body either. There's two Bernese Mountain Dogs here too as well. Anyway, there you go, okay? The importance of quiet clothing. So in every sense of a human being, we need to be intentional to not have noise in our clothing. I don't know for sure what kind of dog breed that is. It's kind of far away. I can't quite tell for sure. It also has a dock tail, like really small one. Might not even be a poodle of any kind, or like a doodle of any kind. Looked like it at first. Could be wrong though. I definitely could be wrong. I think I am, actually. But that's where my mind is set, right? We specialize in purebred standard poodles on In The Image Clothing Company poodles. I love them, the big dogs, okay? But we do a lot for them. And this is one of the big things we talk about on In The Image Clothing Company poodles. I mentioned it a little bit at the beginning of this video, but just the distraction we have as human beings going through our life from just a little bit of noise, unless it's keys, it's usually things like this, the aglets of our shoelaces or drawstrings, or what you could call a drawstring, but just the rope around the hoodie dangling, hitting our chest, right? Our pectoral muscles on the front of our rib cage, even down to our abdominal muscles, maybe if they're really long. Yeah, right below our ribs here. Regardless of what it is, in clothing, noise is noise, and it's distracting audibly. And on dogs, it's like them having a keychain around their waist, right? That's how we could relate to it. If you take keys and you hang it around your waist and you walk around and they're always jingling, although that's not quite next to your head. Dogs' collars is the point, are even more distracting than that, audibly. We have dogs' collars right around their necks, right next to their ears, okay? Very, very close to the ears. You've got this jingling of these little metal dog tags or anything on collars that are just moving around and making noise. So for the dogs, that's distracting. So a lot of what we do on In The Image Clothing Company poodles is debunking things, right? Letting dogs stay natural, yes, but then also explaining, like, why won't your dog walk straight on a leash? Well, if your leash is pulling it to one side, it's going to have to be pulling away from it just to not be pulled to the side it's being pulled on, you know? And so it seems like your dog's walking away from you. Really, your dog's just combating that pull of the leash weight, okay? A lot of these things we talk about, but the noise from the collars on dogs is so distracting. And if we're trying to give our dogs commands, if we're wondering why our dogs don't listen, if your dog runs off clear to the other side of the field or down the street, wherever it is, and you're yelling at your dog to come back and they're not listening to you, and you think it's just your dog's fault, like they're not a good obedient dog, and maybe you paid for obedience training and it doesn't seem like it helped or whatever, right? And you're getting frustrated with your dog for reasons that are not your dog's fault to a degree, In the case of just having noise around its collar, it's not going to even be able to hear you very well. And even if it can hear you, it's still so distracted by the collar. It's not natural for dogs, just meaning an animal, to listen to the words human beings speak to them, right? Dogs are smart. Dogs are man's best friend, if you will. People say that. Dogs can be very, very obedient to us human beings, and they love to please their owners. But it's already something that's not natural for them. You're trying to train a puppy, and they've never even heard these sounds you're making. You're speaking commands to them. Anyway, this is stuff that we can speak on much further, and we will definitely always under In the Image Clothing Company Poodles. That might be part of this noise. Like, all right, you've said enough of this for the main side of In the Image Clothing Company. The point is quietness, right? Quiet clothing, loud airplanes. Yeah, the importance of quiet clothing. Okay, that's where we'll leave this, and it really is important, man. Those little knots are big. You can do that on your drawstrings. You can do that on your ropes around your hoodie strings. Definitely on your shoelaces. That's what I do, right? As I said, almost all my shoes, maybe every one of them, but at least almost all of them at this time that I have, that's how they are. Just keep your laces quiet. Keep your drawstrings quiet. Keep things, well, just in every sense, out of your pockets. Otherwise, your whole body will be damaged. Your whole day will be hard, right? Oversized clothing makes life hard. It sure does. It's a video we have under the main side of In the Image Clothing Company, but noise in clothing can as well. It really can, okay? And in many ways, it very much can. It can alter your body physically, and it can just make you feel like there's so much going on when there's nothing. Like you're going on a nice, quiet nature hike or a walk with your dog. Or you're at a poodle parade event under In the Image Clothing Company Poodles. And you're just hiking, walking, whatever, and each step you take, you've got jingling of something on your body, let's say, or you've got tapping of shoelaces on your body, let's say, things like this in clothing, making noise. It'll distract you from where you are. It'll make you unable to be fully present, really, truly. It will. It will. And the effect is actually very, very large, that these little things happen to have on us as human beings. The little things. A podcast episode of In the Image Clothing Company's podcast. Yeah, In the Image Clothing Company podcast, one of our episodes. Yes. It's the little things in our lives that will change our lives. Like the little modifications we show in our clothing. We give a lot of free modifications under In the Image Clothing Company because there's little things snuck in there, if you will. How much of it's actually intended on being snuck in versus just really small imbalances that happen to be there. They will affect our whole bodies, our whole lives, if they're altering our bodies at all, okay? So that's what we do. And everything we do, allow the human body to work, okay? Allowing the body to work. In the Image Clothing Company. That's another one of our episodes too. In the Image Clothing Company podcast. Allowing the body to work. Okay, so there you go. Just know, as I say, there's so many more things that I could mention within these videos when I talk about what I do. Right? But this will give you a good introduction, a good understanding of what to look for, what to look out for, what to not have if and where you can have that be the case, right? So I'm just trying to make sure I don't need to say anything else for the sake of the importance of quiet clothing in this while we're in this. Yeah. Kind of feel like maybe I do. I just don't know exactly what it is as of right now. So, yeah. Anything loose, right? Because that's the thing with these things like the long shoelaces. Well, I guess that's a point, is it's not only the little aglets, but even just excess shoelace material in itself, check this out, will make noise, right? And tap on our feet. And so I don't think we have a video, I know that we don't, specifically titled something about keeping shoelaces short or the importance of short shoelaces, but that's something I've talked about, something we do talk about, something that is important. Just keeping our shoelaces, like I was saying with drawstrings, only as long as we need them. And I know people don't really like to cut their clothing sometimes, right? You don't want to cut your shoelaces shorter than they would need to be. But these white ones that I showed here that are not so ideal, right? But just for the example, I showed them, they're actually 6-foot long laces. And there's just so much excess lace once you put them through the eyelets. Once you stop your lacing where your ankle flexes, so you're not damaging the motion of your ankle flexing, right? There's just so much excess lace. It'll just be tapping on the top of your feet, making noise, affecting your activation, like I was saying, of your ankles, feet, legs, traveling through your whole body, right? Yeah. So there you go. Right, there's a reason to be minimal other than trying to like be minimal. More things often are more damaging than less things in our lives. That really is the case. We discuss it as it is. I discuss it in depth where I referenced, some things there that you can go check out. I referenced quite a few things in this video. So that's where we'll leave this. I don't know. I feel like I need to maybe do something for the sake of showing something else before I cut this, and I'm not sure what it is, so I'm just kind of praying through it as I'm speaking here. Yeah, I don't know, but there you go. Okay, the importance of quiet clothing. So we'll always have good products, like I said, that will be quiet, almost certainly, no guarantees, but just about for sure we'll have shoelaces as one of the things that we sell under InTheImageClothingCompany.com, and drawstrings, right, which they might be the same thing, just maybe certain lengths for one or the other, and collars, leashes, harnesses, these things, anything that could be loud in clothing, just know In The Image Clothing Company's products of those things will always have that intentionality behind them to keep them as quiet as we possibly could, to not do these things to the body that I've mentioned in here. Okay, so that's a big thing. Is I understand things like the dog tags, for example, on our dogs. It's good. That's where you place the information, and that is good to have there, is what I mean, the information for your dogs. But it's actually causing a lot of, just as it is, problems truly with having those there. So yeah, we'll really get into it, because even things like not just the simple clothing, shoes, pants, and tops, backpacks, and anything. That's what I mean. I guess that's a good distinction to make in this. Maybe that's why I was like, feeling I needed to say more. Anything that clothes the human body with something, anything placed onto it, is clothing. So it doesn't matter what it could be. It's not just the generic clothing items that we talk about when it comes to clothing under In The Image Clothing Company. And when we're like approaching the body through clothing, not only just every other way that we do, because we talk about everything we do in life here under the main side of In The Image Clothing Company. Yeah, backpacks, hats, shoot. I mean, I don't know. I'm just thinking about things that could be very noisy, because that's okay. That is the point. I mean, jewelry. There we go. I was like, there's something else, and I thought about it when I was, preparing to make this video in the ways that I was preparing to, right? Yeah, praying through it really. Necklaces, okay? They'll do basically the same thing as those ropes coming down from the collar of your hoodie. Necklaces always tapping on your chest. You're putting emphasis on the front of your body, your pectoral muscles, and you'll be like this in life. Shoulders forward, rounded, externally rotated at the shoulder capsule. Even if your hands are turned in, you're in external rotation here. And you've changed your whole spine's curvature. You've changed everything down to the tips of your toes, the tips of your fingers, from a necklace tapping on your chest as you walk. Or even just the weight there pulling you forward. But for the sake of the noise, yeah, I mean, it'll be tapping, 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 tapping on your chest. Earrings, more common for women to wear earrings than men, but whoever does wear earrings, if they're noisy, we talk about dog collars, and I was saying that's so much closer to the ears of the dogs than things in our clothing down at our waist or our feet, and those are affecting us, and the dogs with the collar sound is affecting, yeah, it's okay. I mean, it's big, right? That's what I mean. You go through life with like jingly earrings, okay? Earrings making any noise at all, you're always going to be distracted. So a lot of what can come from that is what I was saying a few minutes ago here. And this is as real as it gets, right? The phrase I say, it's as obvious as it is once you see it, right? These phrases like this under In The Image Clothing Company, that's why I say these things. Like, a lot of people have such a busy mind, you know, they can't seem to calm down or feel like they can relax or be undistracted, but then maybe they're wearing earrings that are jingling right next to their sense of sound, right? We hear through our ears, and on your ears you've got jingling sounds from little like metallic or plastic or whatever it is earrings hanging there. Yeah, quiet please. That's how you'll feel. You know, a lot of people who are pretty, what you could call high strung, or just feel very anxious all the time, a lot of it's coming from stuff like this. They just feel like they never get a break because they literally never have a quiet moment in their day with noise on their body from a man-made thing, whether it is clothing, whether it is jewelry of any kind, bracelets, right? A similar thing with the physical activation of the sensory system rather than just audibly jingling, because we can have that as well. Bracelets that make noise, that's so distracting to us through our whole lives. And then we associate our movements with the sound because it's happening at the same time. So it can go into your emotional state. This is what I mean. This is a big video. The importance of, there's a reason why it's so very important to have quiet clothing. Physical reasons, mental reasons, emotional reasons, right? People will feel like they're taking up too much space sometimes, like they're too annoying, like people don't want to be around them, like they're repelling people. A lot of that can be associated in your own being from the noise that's coming when you move or when you are around other people. You hear the noise and maybe you're being annoyed by it, and now you're like blaming yourself in a sense. Our own worst enemy, an episode of In The Image Clothing Company podcast. That's its title. That one, specific. Yes, and we are, okay? So this can happen, right? There's a lot that goes into quiet clothing. That's why this video has been what it is. I've been trying to make this video for about 3 days, actually. Yeah, I mean, this is really big. It's really, really a thing to put focus on for everyone. You don't have to care. You have to care. Otherwise, it is doing these things to your life. Otherwise, right? If you're not intentional about it, is what I mean. It's actually causing a lot of problems, truly, universally. Just noise on our bodies, okay? Dogs as well, as I've said here, okay? And as we say, under In The Image Clothing Company, poodles. So yeah, there you go. That's where we'll leave this. My name is Evan Strong, the founder of In The Image Clothing Company. Today is the 1st of October. It's fall time. Check out the leaves. These ones don't seem very colorful. These ones are like yellow here behind where the camera is facing. But yeah, check us out. Stick around for the poodles, right? Check out what we do. If you'd like to buy our products, cool. If you'd like to come to any events of ours under In The Image Clothing Company, any of the ones that we do have, cool. Check us out. Scheduling, InTheImageClothingCompany.com. Sweet, dude. Thank you.